Let's talk about how to use a segregated account for infinite banking. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For today's quick take, I want to talk about using a segregated account for your infinite banking. So when I talk about the 3 rules of banking, a lot of times I'll put it this way. There are 3 rules of banking. Pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, recapture the money. Okay, so paying yourself first, that's premiums. Paying yourself with interest, that's just giving cost to your capital. That's EVA. You pay interest when you borrow, so you should do that for yourself. Be a profitable banker. Okay, and then recapture the money. So that point, that's where you could talk about what it means to have and use a segregated account. So a segregated account is simply a checking or a savings account at your regular commercial bank. Even though I'm my own banker, I have checking accounts, I have savings accounts, I have cards and online portals. Okay, so I still use banks for the convenience of these things. I just don't do business with banks. And if I do, I maintain control, because I'm my own banker. But all that to say that a segregated account is simply a checking account or a savings account that you can use for this. So let's say you're becoming your own banker. You're actively paying premiums into a policy that you own, and then you're making a policy loan to pay off something, pay for something. You're using that capital in your life to whatever end, okay? But if you're buying something or if you're paying something off, let me use a debt for an example. So let's say you pay off a credit card and you had a couple more that you wanted to pay off, but you just paid off the first credit card. Well, the question is well, that $25, that $50, that $500, whatever it was, that monthly payment that used to go to that credit card, now that needs to go back into your system, right? But does it need to be an extra $25 or $250 or whatever the number is, loan repayment back to the insurance company every month? I don't think so. I mean, you could do that if you want, okay? But I would suggest that a segregated account, a checking account or a savings account that you only use for your infinite banking, okay? So this is not where you're doing groceries from, okay? So this is segregated. It is separate. It is particularly and singularly used for the infinite banking in your life. Maybe now instead of that $25 payment going to the credit card company because you paid that loan off, you paid off that account, you can put that $25 plus interest into your segregated account and just let that build there for a time. How long? You decide. Okay, I'm just saying you don't have to make a loan repayment $25 at a time when you pay that off. You could let that build up and let your cash values build up from continuing to pay premiums, of course. And then when you have enough built up between those 2 locations to tackle the next debt, let's say credit card number 2 or whatever else is on your list, well, you could pool that capital together, pay off that second one, and now start repaying that. So a segregated account is helpful because it allows you to keep things clean, neat, organized. You can monitor. So you could use that segregated account. That could be the account that you pay your premiums from. That could be the account where you have your policy loan sent to before you go and pay something off or pay for something. And then, of course, if you're making repayments, you could just decide to put those repayments in your segregated account because maybe they're not going to be there for so very long, or that's just where you'd like to have it for a certain amount of time. Now, when the amount of money that you have in your segregated account builds up to an uncomfortable level for you, that's a great time to consider, okay, well, are we able to pay some additional paid up additions premiums on our existing policy? Should we be paying extra? Okay. As long as you're, of course, still making your regularly scheduled premium payments, you might decide to use the capital that builds up in your segregated account to pay your ongoing scheduled premiums. Of course, you might use those funds in your segregated account to pay your policy loan interest every year, to pay off the policy loan interest from the policy loans that you've been making. You might use that capital to pay back those policy loans as well. So personally, I prioritize in that order that I described for you, I believe, is if I have extra capital, I'm going to see it first and foremost, okay, that my policy premiums, my regularly scheduled policy premiums are being met. Next, if I have more, I want to pay additional paid up additions premiums. I want to grow that policy. So that's the place to be recapturing interest, is to use that recaptured interest that had been going to the credit card people and start putting that through our private monetary system. So I want to make additional paid up additions premium payments. So I'm going to call the company up and say, hey, I want to pay some extra. How much extra can I pay? And I want to do that to the max if I can. And then next, I would prioritize policy loan interest so that my loan interest is not compounding against me in the policy. That's nice. And then policy loan repayments. Just simply pay that back when, if, how that we choose. Okay, so everybody's situation is a little bit different. I've given a rough idea of what it could look like to use a segregated account if you were paying off debts, for example. It keeps things neat. It keeps things tidy. It keeps things separate from your groceries and other things that you're doing in life. It will also show you, yes, as capital builds up there, perhaps when it seems like a good time to expand your system. Maybe you're fully funding a policy. You're paying as much extra premium as you can fit into that policy without making it, and you still have too much. And it's at a level that you say, okay, well, it makes sense to just go ahead and get another policy at this point because you have that money built up there. So there's going to be a natural progression over the course of time of you becoming your own banker, where you're recapturing interest that have been going to other people. You're recapturing principal. You might be profitable in some things that you decide to use your capital for. And of course, that means that you're going to systematically grow and expand your own private monetary system over the course of time. So a segregated account can definitely be very useful, very handy when implementing the infinite banking concept. And if you'd like to discuss this further and what that could look like for you to implement the infinite banking concept in your household or your business or your investing, then you can get on my calendar from our website, durhamtalents.com. This has been a great pleasure for me. Look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day. Take care.